Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Realm of Ori. In this video, we will continue with Volume 16, Chapter 2, Interviews, Part 1. And before we start, this video contains spoilers from the Tensura Light Novel. And by the way guys, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click on the bell icon to get notifications for upcoming videos. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So, I was also in trouble. That's what I thought after hearing what Ramiris and the others had to say. It was a bigger problem than I had thought it would be. So, will Chloe be alright? There's nothing wrong. She is conscious and has changed back into her child form. For now, she's just resting in the infirmary, just in case. When Shuna told me that, it made me feel better. I was told from the beginning that there would be no deaths, but I couldn't rest until I saw for myself. She's probably already asleep, so I'll go see her tomorrow. That being said, this time, the enemy really gave us a hard time. A plan to use the intruder as a distraction and get Ramiris and her guards to move away from each other. Then give Dino a chance to turn against us. Beretta wasn't nearly as strong as Dino. Even when Beretta and Apito worked together, they couldn't stop Dino, and he was almost got his hands on Ramiris. Ramiris was saved in the end because Zeun got there just in time, but if even one thing had gone wrong, it would have been a disaster. When I thought about what would have happened if Zeun hadn't woken up in time, it made me feel sick. I was so relieved that he got there on time that I couldn't help but put my hand on my chest. Still, the return of Velgrin-san was a bit of a surprise. She was talking about her plans for the future with Masayuki and the Imperial commanders at the time. We'd have to talk again later, but I think they'd all want to think about it first. So, if Velgrin-san protected those people, it must have been because of Masayuki. I feel like I understand a lot more now, but I also have more questions. On the other hand, I'll just think about those questions when I have time. I took a look at the people who had just told me their report. Ramiris, I'm so glad you're okay. It was nothing, but on the other hand, that Dino didn't seem like it wanted to hurt me, and it would have been terrible if I had left the labyrinth. Why, if I had been serious, I could have taken him out with any of my 48 special moves. Ramiris was just like she always was. Even though she was very angry, she would act brave as soon as she felt safe. It was cute in a way. When I came back, she was still sleeping happily, but she was still talking in her sleep, saying things like, "I'll show you all of my 48 special moves, Dino." She thought she was strong in her dreams, and she also thought she was strong when I wasn't around. Dino should be glad that Ramiris-sama didn't use any of her 48 special moves. Ramiris's caretaker, Treyni-san, was quick to compliment her. Well, of course. Ramiris gave a happy nod. Ramiris gets carried away with her because she's always like this. Do it in moderation, I told myself. I am so sorry, Rimuru-sama. I didn't keep an eye on things well enough. I never thought Dino-kun would turn against us. It was Vesta, whose head was down, who said so. He seemed to want to come here as soon as possible to say sorry to me. Vesta, who has a strong sense of duty, seemed very sad about what had happened. So I gave Vesta a smile to make him feel better. No, don't be worried. Dino has been strange from the start, hasn't he? Ramiris, Treyni, and even Beretta nodded when I said that. He is, after all, a demon lord. I had doubts about him right away. I didn't think he'd be so brave, but I'd been keeping a close eye on him so I could deal with him quickly if he caused any trouble. Overall, he took his work in an unbelievable serious way, which surprised me. It was a bunch of sad things that made me think we should have given him more credit. But there was nothing else to do. Dino came here in the first place because Guy told him to. Dino didn't try to hide the fact that he was a spy, and neither did anyone else. We had every reason to be suspicious. But I believe, stop being so sad, Vesta-san. Dino probably didn't want to betray us from the bottom of his heart. I actually thought that. Dino's betrayal was expected, but the fact that he had his own plans showed that he wanted to be watched from the beginning. Dino might have thought that one day this would happen. I couldn't stop thinking that. He's sure clumsy, isn't he? If that's the case, he could have at least talked to someone about it. Well, I'd like to believe that now that we're friends. Dino could had his own reasons, too. Vesta seemed to agree with me when I said that. Indeed, I want to trust him. I was also going in the wrong direction once, but King Gazel and Rimuru-sama helped me get back on the right track. Even knowing that someone is there for you is a comfort. Vesta's face became a little less tense, as if his doubts had been put to rest. I thought, that's fine. I too wanted to believe Dino. I couldn't say it out loud until I was sure, but I thought of something else. Dino might have an angelic ultimate skill, but that was just a possibility. It doesn't just happen by chance that a unique skill changes into an ultimate skill when it's used in battle. If that was possible, it would mean that he had the tools to make it happen. Indeed, it's rare for people to change while in battle. Ciel was the only one who agreed with me. He was my closest friend and confidant, and the person I counted on the most. In the heat of battle with Velgrand, when I was in a good mood, I had named the Wisdom King Raphael. Because of this, the Manas, which is the center of theosophy, gave birth to an intelligent being named Ciel. It was more than just a mind. Like Chronoa, it was an algorithmic device that was separate from its master. It could be considered a different core that resides within my soul. It was clear that it has an ego, and its actions were more like those of a person than they had been before. Is that right? As soon as Ciel said that, my ability to persuade fell quickly. Ciel had done a lot of things on its own, so what was it saying now? Even if Ciel had time to say that now, we would have been in trouble if it hadn't changed and stayed as the Wisdom King Raphael. Now that I think about it, I was in trouble as soon as I talked to Rudra, or was it Michael? But that was probably because the ultimate dominion was affecting him. You still don't say anything when it's not convenient. In other words, there's a good chance I would have lost if it hadn't changed into Ciel. I didn't realize how close we were to winning until now, and I couldn't help but be scared. It's just a thought experiment, so it doesn't make sense to think about what could have happened. Hey, you hate losing even more than I do, right? I had to come to a conclusion and stop thinking. But I guess we're the only ones who aren't like that. Going back to Dino, I think it was reasonable to think that he was hiding some kind of power. Maybe it was just meant to be a disguise. But the strangeness of the manifestation makes us sure that he has other abilities as well. Surely it must be true if Ciel says so. That was supposed to be the end of it, but someone else was also sad. Oh, Rimuru-sama, I'm very sorry. I put Ramiris-sama in danger. Beretta got down on his knees in front of me and hung his head in shame. Hold on a second, Beretta-chan. You've done a great job. Ramiris was right. Beretta did a great job against Dino, who was much better. I didn't want to blame him for being careless. Instead, I wanted to thank him for giving us all that time. Because of how Beretta was, I was afraid that he would blame himself for losing, and it turned out that was the case. Like with Vesta, it wasn't good to take things too seriously. No, you did what you were taught to do and bought time, which is great. But Ramiris-sama has put me in charge of the defense as Dungeon Master, which is a very important job. And Rimuru-sama has given me the job of keeping Ramiris-sama safe. And yet, here I am, in so much trouble. Beretta didn't believe what I said, and the more he talked, the more upset he got. Even though he might have been very angry, Beretta did the right things. Beretta did his part well when he was up against Dino because he knew if he could win or not. If he had misread the situation and attacked Ramiris without thinking, he would have been caught by now. I didn't want to think about how bad the damage would have been. So, Beretta, I'm telling you that you should be prouder of yourself. When I told Beretta how good his work was, he finally calmed down. It turned out that the enemy's plan had failed. In other words, Beretta and the rest of the group had done enough. If that's so, even though he was no longer angry, he still wasn't sure. Are you still upset? Then let's talk about it in my room later. Haha, thank you. Ramiris was safe, so there was nothing to worry about. On the other hand, Beretta was still too worried. In the end, Beretta and I agreed to talk about it later, and that was that. After I heard from Ramiris and Vesta, Geld and Adalman told me what they knew. Geld, you did a great job keeping the town safe. Thanks. I love this town, but I can't put it into words. I won't let the fruits of our hard work be taken away so easily. Me and my friends feel the same way. I'll keep working hard and try not to disappoint Rimuru-sama. I'm counting on you, but don't force yourself. I told Geld not to act too quickly, and then I got his report. It looked like the enemy was close to Dino. Pico and Gracia were the names of the two women. As for who the enemy was, Ramiris confirmed that they were the 7 primordial angels, who worked for Veldanava. They used to be seraphim, which are the highest and most powerful angels. They worked to keep the world stable. Dino seemed to be one of them, but the enemies who showed up on the 50th and 70th floors were thought to be from other forces. These originals were supposed to run the otherworld by keeping an eye on the powerful monsters that were sealed there. Dino told me that only 3 of them were still on Earth. Most likely, Pico, Gracia, and Dino were those 3 people. They went from being seraphs to being fallen, and they lived on Earth. It seemed like their goal was to keep an eye on things, but it wasn't clear if someone else told them to or if they did it on their own. Since only bits and pieces of information were gathered, it was impossible to know what their plans were. The opponent had a lot of strength. If I hadn't evolved, I wouldn't have been able to stand up to them. Geld said it was that bad, so it must have been. I heard that Kumara fought against Pico, and that it was also a fierce fight. Still, the fact that the opponent was still able to mess with the Labyrinth during the battle made it seem like they hadn't used all of their abilities. I see. That's not good. Yes. I would have liked to get along with them, but it's too late now. I would bet that Dino was being manipulated and try to come up with a way to stop it. Then there were the other things going on. What about Zelario? He was a fierce opponent. Before I got there, Cherry's Dono and Treyni Dono were fighting him, but they couldn't beat him. This one wasn't as good. I looked at the records of the fights in the Labyrinth, and it seems that the Fallen and the Phantoms were from different races. He said he was one of the 3 Phantom Commanders, and that the Phantom King was his boss. In other words, that haughty Phantom King Feldway used to be in charge of the 7 Primordial Angels. Feldway is in charge of the 3 Phantom Commanders, which are the 3 Primordial Angels who traveled to the other world with him. Veldanava went missing on their way to the other world, making it impossible for them to get back. They must have changed and become phantoms at some point. I understood everything. They were different from Dino, and it must have been because they had been friends in the past that they were able to help each other. Those were just my personal conclusions mixed with what I hoped would happen. I see what you mean. Oh, that's good to hear. I was almost sure because Ciel agreed. In any case, the Phantom King and his group are the enemies. Everyone should now keep an eye out for them. I shared everything I knew with everyone. It was mostly about Michael and Feldway, the Phantom King. Michael's power was very important, so I made sure to not hide that either. Then, Dino might be under someone's control. Rimuru stated that he wished to trust him for this reason, correct? They took note. I wasn't going to say that until I knew for sure. I hope I'm not making too much of this, but it's possible that he's being used. If that's the case, Ramiris, let's forgive him. Well, yeah, I really do. Ramiris said this and smiled. I took the fact that she seemed to be feeling better than before as a good sign. All that was left was to hope that Dino was being manipulated.